Have you ever wondered if the angels and demons we often hear about in stories, movies, and religious texts are more than just fictional characters or mythical creatures? Are they rooted in the history of humanity? Or do they simply represent abstract ideas of good and evil? Throughout the ages, these celestial beings have captured our imaginations, playing pivotal roles in our cultures, religions, and even politics. But is there more to these enigmatic figures than meets the eye? Picture this: it's the Middle Ages, a time of great turmoil and belief in the supernatural. Kings, queens, and commoners alike were deeply invested in the idea that divine forces were either guiding them or testing them through trials and tribulations. Angels, messengers of the divine, were believed to bring hope and protection, while demons, symbols of chaos and temptation, lurked in the shadows, ready to lead the unwary astray. But what if I told you that the true history of angels and demons isn't as black and white as we've been led to believe? In this story, we're going to journey through the ages, uncovering the facts and debunking the myths surrounding these powerful beings. We'll explore how different cultures and religions have portrayed them, how they've influenced history, and how their representation has changed over time. From ancient civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia, to the foundations of major world religions, angels and demons have been woven into the fabric of human belief in complex and surprising ways. But the real question remains: do these figures actually have a place in the world we live in today? Or have they simply evolved into characters of convenience, used in stories, films, and pop culture to represent larger themes of good versus evil, moral choices, and the battle for our souls? As we explore this hidden history, we will uncover the layers of myth and fact that have shaped the way we view angels and demons. And along the way, we'll ask ourselves, what do these ancient symbols of good and evil really mean for us today? Are they still relevant? And most importantly, what lessons can we learn from them, both in our personal lives and in our businesses? To truly understand the history of angels and demons, we must first delve into their origins. While these celestial and infernal beings are commonly associated with Judeo-Christian traditions, their roots stretch far back into the ancient civilizations of the Near East, Egypt, and even pre-biblical cultures. These early depictions of angels and demons were not necessarily the religious symbols we recognize today, but rather manifestations of the human psyche, interpreting the forces of nature, morality, and fate. 1. Angels in ancient Mesopotamia and the Near East. Mesopotamia, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, offers some of the earliest references to divine messengers and protective spirits. In the Sumerian and Akkadian cultures, gods and goddesses were believed to interact with humans through intermediaries, much like angels in later Abrahamic religions. These beings, though not yet called angels, were depicted as powerful and radiant entities who acted as messengers or guardians. For instance, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a key text in Sumerian and Akkadian literature, there are references to divine beings sent by the gods to guide or punish humans. These figures exhibit traits we later associate with angels. They were benevolent forces sent by the gods to aid humanity. Yet they also represented the consequences of human actions. In the Mesopotamian pantheon, there were also minor deities known as Ugalu, or watchers, who were tasked with overseeing human affairs. These watchers, in many ways, parallel the concept of angels as divine entities sent to protect or guide mankind. In addition to the benevolent beings, Mesopotamian mythology also features malevolent spirits that resembled demons. The Akkadian word demon, or deiru, was used to describe supernatural beings that could bring misfortune or illness. These early demons, unlike the well-known representations in modern religions, were often seen as neutral forces that could be either beneficial or harmful depending on the circumstances. The idea of demons as purely evil forces would evolve much later. 2. Egyptian mythology, gods and spirits as messengers. In ancient Egypt, the concept of divine beings acting as intermediaries between gods and mortals was well established. However, the Egyptians did not specifically have angels in the Judeo-Christian sense. Instead, they believed in a wide array of spiritual beings, including messengers who communicated divine will. These beings were often depicted as hybrid creatures, combining human and animal traits, such as the god Thoth, who was the god of wisdom and the divine scribe. often portrayed with the head of an ibis bird. One of the key figures in Egyptian mythology that parallels the role of angels is the goddess Ma'at. Ma'at represented truth, order, and justice, and she was often called upon to oversee the balance of the universe. In this sense, she acted as a divine force who could both guide and protect. Much like angels in later religious traditions, while not a messenger in the strict sense, her role as a divine entity maintaining harmony in the universe parallels the protective and guiding roles that angels would come to symbolize. The Egyptians also believed in a pantheon of lesser gods and spirits that acted as divine messengers. These spirits, though not always benevolent, were often tasked with delivering omens or warnings. In the Egyptian worldview, the line between good and evil was less defined than in later Abrahamic traditions. And these spiritual messengers were seen more as agents of cosmic order than purely benevolent or malevolent beings. 3. The birth of demons in ancient cultures. While angels in early civilizations were often depicted as protectors or guides, demons began to emerge in a more distinctly negative light. The roots of demonic entities can be traced to early cultures such as the Persians, Greeks, and later the Romans. In these societies, demons were often seen as malevolent forces that interfered with human affairs, causing sickness, misfortune, and death. In ancient Persia, for instance, the concept of Ahriman, the evil spirit in Zoroastrianism, was a direct precursor to the demonic figures in later Abrahamic religions. Ahriman, the embodiment of chaos, deception, and evil, sought to undermine the divine order established by Ahura Mazda, the god of light and goodness. The struggle between Ahura Mazda and Ahriman was the central theme of Zoroastrianism, and this cosmic dualism influenced later theological concepts of angels and demons in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Greek pantheon also contained a variety of malevolent beings. While the gods and goddesses of Greek mythology were primarily focused on natural forces, fate, and human passions, there were also figures who represented the darker aspects of the human experience. For example, the daimons were supernatural spirits that could be either benevolent or harmful, depending on their nature and their interaction with humans. The most famous of these is Hades, the god of the underworld, whose realm was filled with tormented souls. Hades' realm, while not a place of pure evil, was a dark and feared dimension that represented the unknown and the afterlife. In later Roman times, the figure of Diabolus or the devil began to take shape as the ultimate antagonist in Christian theology. While initially influenced by the pantheon of Greek and Roman deities, the Christian devil would eventually evolve into a distinctly malevolent being who embodied all evil. 4. Angels in the Judeo-Christian tradition. The idea of angels as divine messengers began to take shape in the Jewish traditions of the Old Testament, or Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew word malach translates to messenger, and it is used throughout the Old Testament to describe heavenly beings who deliver messages from God. The first mention of angels as messengers appears in the book of Genesis when God sends angels to warn Lot of the impending destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. In this context, angels were not ethereal or immaterial beings as they are often portrayed today, but powerful and sometimes fearsome figures who acted on behalf of God. As Jewish thought evolved, the concept of angels became more developed, and the role of angels expanded beyond mere messengers. In Jewish mysticism, especially in the Kabbalistic traditions, angels were seen as beings who embodied the divine attributes of God, such as mercy, justice, and wisdom. These angels were part of the celestial hierarchy and played a critical role in maintaining the divine order of the universe. In Christianity, angels took on an even more prominent role, particularly with the birth of Jesus Christ. The angel Gabriel is perhaps the most famous of all Christian angels, delivering the message to the Virgin Mary that she would bear the Son of God. This event would cement Gabriel's place as a central figure in Christian iconography and theology. Alongside Gabriel, other angels like Michael and Raphael emerged as powerful and protective figures, leading heavenly armies or guiding souls to salvation. As we move from the ancient civilizations into the rise of major world religions, the roles and representations of angels and demons become more structured and defined. Their evolution during this time reflects shifts in religious beliefs, societal changes, and the growing complexity of human understanding of good and evil. From Judaism to Christianity, and later Islam, the representation of angels and demons would undergo significant transformation, becoming key elements of theological and cultural narratives. 1. Angels and demons in Judaism. In Judaism, the concepts of angels and demons became more refined and elaborate over time, especially as religious thought developed through the Hebrew Bible and subsequent Jewish texts. In the early parts of the Hebrew Bible, angels were primarily seen as messengers, often sent by God to deliver messages or carry out divine commands. These messengers were sometimes associated with specific tasks, such as bringing forth blessings, warnings, or destruction. The earliest depictions of angels in the Hebrew Bible come from stories such as the binding of Isaac in the book of Genesis, where an angel intervenes at the last moment to stop Abraham from sacrificing his son. Similarly, in the book of Exodus, angels are sent to protect the Israelites from harm during the exodus from Egypt. These angels were not yet imbued with the attributes of good in the moral sense, but were more like agents of divine will, beings that performed specific tasks on behalf of a higher power. However, as Jewish mysticism, particularly Kabbalah, grew in prominence, angels evolved into more complex spiritual beings, embodying various aspects of God's divine nature. These angels were thought to be powerful forces within the spiritual realm, acting as intermediaries between humans and God. The Kabbalistic tradition, with its intricate cosmology, created an entire hierarchy of angels, each with specific duties and roles. Some angels were viewed as symbols of divine qualities like mercy, judgment, and wisdom, while others were associated with more abstract concepts like the Sephirot, or divine emanations. Jewish thought also introduced the idea of evil spirits, which would later evolve into the concept of demons. In early Jewish texts, the most prominent evil figure is Satan, who in the Hebrew Bible is not yet the diabolical adversary he is later portrayed as in Christianity and Islam. Instead, Satan in Jewish tradition was seen as a divine prosecutor, an accuser who would challenge the righteousness of individuals before God. Over time, however, Satan's role shifted, and he became increasingly associated with temptation and rebellion, leading to the later conception of a demonic force that works to lead people astray. 2. The rise of demons in early Christianity. The development of Christian theology brought with it a more distinct divide between angels and demons. While angels retained their roles as messengers and protectors, demons were cast in a far more antagonistic light. In Christian doctrine, angels were seen as servants of God, fulfilling His will and offering guidance and protection to humanity. Demons, in contrast, were viewed as rebellious spirits, fallen from grace, and aligned with Satan in opposition to God's divine plan. The most well-known narrative of angels and demons in Christianity is the story of the fall of Lucifer. According to Christian theology, Lucifer was once the highest ranking of all angels, but his pride led him to rebel against God. This rebellion resulted in Lucifer's fall from heaven, and he became Satan, the leader of the demonic forces. This narrative established the cosmic battle between good and evil as a central theme in Christian teachings. Angels like Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel became prominent figures in Christian theology. Michael, for instance, was depicted as a warrior angel, leading the heavenly armies against Satan and his demons. Gabriel, often seen as the messenger angel, played a key role in delivering divine messages, such as the announcement to Mary that she would conceive Jesus. Raphael, while less commonly known, was associated with healing and protection. These angels not only acted as messengers but also embodied the divine virtues of strength, mercy, and guidance. In contrast, demons were portrayed as destructive, deceptive, and dangerous. The rise of the concept of hell in Christian doctrine further cemented the role of demons as tormentors of souls. The idea that demons would lead sinners into eternal damnation reinforced the antagonistic relationship between angels and demons in Christian cosmology. Early Christian writings, such as the Gospel of Matthew and the Book of Revelation, would depict demons as entities working to corrupt humanity and lead them away from salvation. This image of demons as agents of chaos and evil would have a lasting impact on Western culture. 3. Angels and demons in Islam. Islam, as one of the three Abrahamic faiths, shares many theological concepts with Judaism and Christianity, but it also introduces unique perspectives on angels and demons. In Islamic theology, angels are seen as pure beings created from light by God, Allah. Unlike in Christianity and Judaism, where angels sometimes have free will, in Islam, angels are strictly obedient to Allah's commands. They do not have the ability to disobey God, and their purpose is solely to carry out divine orders. One of the most important angels in Islam is Gabriel, who is considered the chief messenger of God. Jibril's role in delivering Allah's messages to the prophets, including the revelation of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, places him at the center of Islamic angelology. Other angels, such as Michael, Israfil, Raphael, and Azrael, the angel of death, also play crucial roles in Islamic belief. Each angel has a specific duty, ranging from providing sustenance to humans to overseeing the final judgment. Demons in Islam, referred to as jinn, are supernatural beings created from smokeless fire. Unlike angels, jinn possess free will and can choose to do good or evil. The most infamous of all jinn is Iblis, who refused to bow to Adam and was cast out of heaven as a result. Iblis's rebellion mirrors the story of Satan in Christianity, and his refusal to submit to Allah makes him the ultimate enemy of humanity. In Islamic tradition, Iblis and his followers, the shayatan, or devils, are considered to be the main source of temptation and evil in the world, working to lead humans astray from the path of righteousness. In contrast to the strict dualism of good and evil that characterizes some Christian views of angels and demons, Islam maintains a more nuanced understanding of evil. While jinn can be malevolent, they also have the potential for redemption, and their actions are subject to Allah's will. The belief in the existence of jinn offers a complex view of spiritual entities, where both angels and demons can influence human lives. But ultimately, it is God's will that prevails. 4. Angels, demons, and the medieval mind. By the time of the Middle Ages, angels and demons had become central figures in Christian theology, and their influence permeated all aspects of medieval life. From religious rituals to political thought, the Church's teachings on angels and demons shaped how people viewed the divine and the supernatural. Saints, theologians, and scholars like Thomas Aquinas debated the nature of angels and demons, with Aquinas particularly advancing the idea that angels were pure intellects, capable of communicating God's will directly to human beings. Medieval Christianity also saw the rise of the concept of demonic possession, which became a source of fear and fascination throughout Europe. The belief that demons could take control of human bodies was popularized in medieval texts and led to widespread panic and mass hysteria, especially during periods of plague and societal instability. Exorcisms, trials of witches, and other forms of spiritual warfare became commonplace as people sought to rid themselves of demonic influence. As we move beyond the medieval period and into the modern era, the figures of angels and demons continue to evolve, influenced not only by theological discourse but also by shifts in societal, artistic, and cultural values. The influence of these supernatural beings in the modern world is vast, and their role has been reinterpreted, romanticized, and even villainized in various forms of literature, film, and popular culture. In this section, we will explore how angels and demons are portrayed today, and how these portrayals continue to shape our understanding of good and evil, both in religious and secular contexts. 1. The romanticization of angels. In the modern era, angels have often been romanticized and portrayed in a more benign or even ethereal light. No longer just messengers of God or divine agents of destruction, angels have come to represent purity, hope, and guidance. This transformation is perhaps most evident in the arts, literature, and film, where angels are frequently depicted as benevolent, compassionate beings tasked with helping humanity rather than meting out divine judgment. One of the most significant developments in the romanticization of angels occurred during the 19th century, with the rise of the Victorian era. During this time, literature and art began to emphasize angels as symbols of beauty, innocence, and divine intervention. Authors like Charles Dickens, for example, frequently included angels in their works as symbols of comfort and spiritual salvation. In Dickens's A Christmas Carol, the character of Jacob Marley is visited by angels who guide him toward his moral redemption. The image of the guardian angel has also become a popular concept in modern times, representing a celestial being that watches over an individual, providing protection and guidance. This concept has its roots in Christian doctrine but has been adapted in countless ways in contemporary culture. Whether through stories of miraculous interventions or personal anecdotes of individuals feeling guided by an unseen force, the idea of a guardian angel has gained significant traction in both religious and secular circles. In popular culture, movies like City of Angels, 1998, starring Nicolas Cage and Meg Ryan, have reinforced the image of angels as compassionate and empathetic beings. These angels are not merely messengers but are portrayed as deeply involved in human experiences, showing a longing for human connection and a desire to help people find redemption or peace. This portrayal emphasizes the emotional and spiritual aspects of angels, often leaving behind the older, more awe-inspiring and terrifying representations. 2. The dark side, the popularization of demons in media. While angels have been idealized and softened in modern culture, demons have undergone a much darker transformation, evolving into figures of pure evil and malice. The portrayal of demons in contemporary culture often emphasizes their destructive power, malevolent intentions, and association with chaos. This shift can be traced back to the rise of Gothic literature in the 18th and 19th centuries, which sought to explore the darker aspects of human nature. One of the key texts in the Gothic tradition that influenced modern depictions of demons is Paradise Lost by John Milton. Published in 1667, Milton's epic poem tells the story of Satan's fall from grace and his rebellion against God. Satan, in this work, becomes the tragic anti-hero, a fallen angel who defies God and leads a rebellion in hell. Milton's portrayal of Satan, with his pride, ambition, and defiance, would go on to influence countless depictions of demons in literature and film, making the devil a central figure in Western ideas of evil. In the 20th century, the depiction of demons took a significant turn with the rise of horror films, literature, and occultism. Movies such as The Exorcist, 1973, and The Omen, 1976, brought demons into the popular consciousness as terrifying and malevolent forces capable of possession and torment. The archetype of the demon as a force of pure evil, intent on corrupting and destroying, became deeply ingrained in global culture, particularly in Western horror. The fear of demonic possession and the idea of humans being overtaken by evil forces have become major themes in both horror fiction and real-world anxieties about morality and sin. This portrayal of demons as malevolent beings has, in part, reflected societal fears about the loss of control, the breakdown of moral structures, and the dark side of human nature. The depiction of demonic possession in films, books, and other media often draws on religious themes of spiritual warfare, with characters battling to save their souls from the clutches of an evil entity. In addition to films, the rise of popular franchises like Supernatural and Buffy the Vampire Slayer has further cemented the role of demons in modern storytelling. These characters are often not just representations of evil but are shown as complex entities, with motivations, goals, and personalities. This complexity can create a more nuanced portrayal of demons, making them more than just symbols of pure evil. In these modern portrayals, demons are sometimes shown as being driven by their own desires, or as beings caught in an eternal struggle between good and evil. 3. Angels and demons in modern spirituality. The influence of angels and demons is not limited to popular culture but extends into modern spiritual and New Age movements. In these circles, angels are often seen as guides to personal enlightenment, healers, and sources of divine wisdom. The modern understanding of angels has expanded beyond religious doctrine to become a broader symbol of spiritual guidance. People who follow New Age practices often claim to communicate with angels or receive messages from them through meditation, dreams, or intuitive insights. Similarly, demons have not disappeared from modern spiritual thought. In some occult traditions, demons are viewed not as agents of evil but as powerful entities that can be summoned for personal gain or spiritual growth. These entities are sometimes seen as forces of transformation, challenging individuals to confront their own darkness and inner conflicts. This modern view of demons contrasts with the more traditional Christian perspective of demons as inherently malevolent beings. Instead, in some New Age and occult practices, demons are considered to have a more ambiguous role, potentially offering both destruction and creation, depending on the context in which they are invoked. This shift in perception reflects a broader change in how modern society views the forces of good and evil. The lines between angels and demons, once clearly defined, have blurred in some modern spiritual practices. Both are seen as manifestations of larger cosmic energies, forces that influence human lives and provide opportunities for personal growth or downfall. 4. Angels, demons, and the human condition. Ultimately, the enduring fascination with angels and demons speaks to deep-seated concerns about human nature, morality, and the cosmic struggle between good and evil. These figures serve as symbols of the choices we face in life, representing the forces that shape our decisions and define our ethical frameworks. In every culture, angels and demons are metaphors for the constant battle between our better angels, the parts of us that seek to do good and to help others, and our darker impulses, the parts of us that are driven by selfishness, pride, and the desire for power. Angels, as embodiments of grace and protection, remind us of the importance of empathy, kindness, and spiritual connection. They encourage us to live with integrity and to care for others, guiding us through moments of hardship and doubt. Demons, on the other hand, symbolize the dangers of unchecked ambition, the consequences of moral failure, and the temptation to turn away from goodness. They remind us of the chaos that can arise when we ignore our ethical obligations and give in to our baser instincts. In this way, the story of angels and demons is not just one of ancient mythology or religious teaching, but one that continues to resonate in our modern world. These figures remain deeply embedded in our culture, reminding us of the internal struggles we face, and urging us to choose the path of virtue and righteousness. As we continue to explore the evolution of angels and demons, it is essential to understand how their representation in the media has shaped the collective imagination and understanding of these supernatural beings. Over the centuries, the portrayal of angels and demons has shifted to reflect the changing values and concerns of society. The rise of new media formats, from literature to cinema, television, and video games, has allowed for an ever-expanding narrative surrounding these figures, adding complexity, nuance, and, in some cases, even a sense of ambiguity to their roles. 1. Angels and demons in film and television. Film and television have been at the forefront of transforming the cultural perception of angels and demons. The classic dichotomy of good versus evil, once firmly divided between divine and demonic, has become much more nuanced in the hands of modern filmmakers and storytellers. These figures are no longer confined to religious narratives or mythology but have become integral parts of action-packed thrillers, deep philosophical explorations, and character-driven dramas. For example, movies like Constantine, 2005, and The Prophecy, 1995, depict angels and demons as central characters in a battle between heaven and hell. In Constantine, the protagonist John Constantine is a demon hunter who navigates the complex, often morally ambiguous world of the supernatural. The angels in the film are not entirely benevolent, and the demons, while representing evil, are often shown to have motives beyond simple malevolence. This dynamic introduces a theme that would become more prevalent in later films, the idea that even celestial beings may have their own agendas, making them less purely good or evil and more morally complex. The TV show Supernatural, 2005 to 2020, is another example of how the portrayal of angels and demons has evolved in the modern era. The show presents a more humanized version of these figures, allowing them to show emotions, make mistakes, and even question their roles in the grand cosmic order. Angels like Castiel, initially introduced as a stoic and obedient servant of heaven, eventually grow and undergo character development, questioning their orders and exploring the gray areas between good and evil. On the flip side, demons like Crowley are portrayed as nuanced characters with their own motives, occasionally even working with the protagonists to achieve mutual goals. In these examples, angels and demons are no longer mere agents of heaven or hell. They are deeply humanized, struggling with their own moral dilemmas and questioning their existence. This shift mirrors broader societal changes in how we view good and evil, with increasing recognition that morality is often complex, fluid, and subjective. 2. Angels and demons in video games. The digital realm of video games has also played a significant role in shaping how we view angels and demons in the modern era. Video games, especially those in the action, role-playing, and adventure genres, frequently feature these supernatural beings as central figures, allowing players to engage directly in the cosmic battle between good and evil. The interactivity of video games adds a layer of personal involvement that further deepens the connection between the player and the characters they control. One of the most iconic video game franchises involving angels and demons is Dante's Inferno, 2010. Based on the classic work The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, the game takes players on a journey through hell, guided by the protagonist, Dante, as he battles demons and confronts his own sins. This dark, immersive world presents a vivid interpretation of the eternal struggle between good and evil, with angels and demons portrayed as extreme forces that shape the protagonist's fate. In this context, demons are not just antagonistic forces, they represent the inner turmoil, guilt, and temptation of the human soul. Another popular game, Bayonetta, 2009, flips the traditional script by depicting angels as the primary antagonists. In this action-packed, fast-paced game, players control Bayonetta, a powerful witch who battles celestial beings that are portrayed as tyrannical and oppressive. The game's portrayal of angels as antagonistic and aggressive challenges the traditional image of angels as purely benevolent. This subversion of expectations serves to highlight the malleability of these figures and how their roles can be reinterpreted based on the narrative needs of the medium. In both Dante's Inferno and Bayonetta, angels and demons are not simply forces of good and evil, they are complex characters whose motives and actions reflect the intricacies of human experience. The player's interaction with these characters emphasizes the idea that good and evil are not easily defined but are shaped by perspective, context, and personal choice. 3. Angels and demons as allegories in literature. The symbolic representations of angels and demons also find their place in modern literature, where they serve as powerful allegories for deeper moral, philosophical, and psychological themes. In literary works, these figures are often used to explore complex ideas about human nature, free will, and the consequences of moral choices. One notable example is his Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, a fantasy trilogy that introduces readers to a world where angels, demons, in the form of demons, animal-shaped manifestations of human souls, and various religious institutions play significant roles in shaping the story's exploration of consciousness, authority, and personal freedom. The angels in Pullman's world are not divine messengers of grace but rather a part of a hierarchical system that seeks to control knowledge and freedom. In this way, the angels serve as metaphors for institutional power and the restrictions placed on individual thought and autonomy. Pullman's work challenges the traditional theological interpretation of angels and demons, presenting them as part of a larger cosmic struggle that questions religious orthodoxy and the authority of higher powers. The demons, on the other hand, represent a deep connection between individuals and their souls, highlighting the idea that humanity's moral choices are deeply intertwined with their innermost selves. The contrast between the oppressive forces of angels and the liberating, personal nature of demons serves to emphasize themes of rebellion, self-discovery, and the pursuit of truth. This use of angels and demons as symbols of authority versus personal freedom mirrors the broader cultural shift towards questioning established power structures and challenging the boundaries of accepted moral and religious norms. In contemporary literature, angels and demons have come to symbolize the tension between conformity and autonomy, obedience and rebellion, good and evil. 4. The philosophical underpinnings of angel and demon narratives. One of the underlying reasons why angels and demons continue to be compelling figures in modern culture is that they serve as reflections of the philosophical and existential questions that humans grapple with on a daily basis. The conflict between angels and demons can be seen as a metaphor for the internal struggles faced by individuals in their pursuit of moral and ethical lives. Angels, in many narratives, represent the ideals of virtue, love, selflessness, and moral clarity. They embody the hope that, despite the darkness and chaos of the world, there is always a higher power or force that can guide humanity toward goodness and enlightenment. Demons, conversely, represent the temptations, desires, and moral pitfalls that individuals must navigate throughout their lives. They are the representations of sin, pride, selfishness, and the darker sides of human nature that lead people astray. However, The increasing complexity of these figures in modern culture suggests that the battle between good and evil is not as simple as it once appeared. The modern portrayal of angels and demons highlights the complexity of moral decision-making, the ambiguous nature of right and wrong, and the internal conflicts that shape human behavior. These figures no longer serve merely as dichotomous agents of divine or demonic will, they represent the broader struggle for meaning, purpose, and identity in a world that is often uncertain and full of gray areas. As we have explored, the portrayal of angels and demons in media, literature, and art has significantly evolved, reflecting the changing moral and philosophical landscapes of society. However, the impact of these figures goes beyond just entertainment or fictional narratives. The presence of angels and demons in popular culture also speaks to deeper societal values and influences, acting as mirrors to the collective psyche of humanity. Whether through religious, philosophical, or existential lenses, these figures continue to shape our understanding of good, evil, morality, and free will. 1. Angels and demons as symbols in modern society. In contemporary society, angels and demons are often used as symbols that reflect various aspects of human life and experience. Angels, for instance, are commonly associated with purity, protection, and guidance. In times of crisis or difficulty, many people turn to the idea of angels for comfort and reassurance. This idea transcends religious boundaries, as people from different cultures and faiths adopt the concept of guardian angels as protectors and messengers of hope. On the other hand, demons are often depicted as symbols of temptation, moral failure, and the darker sides of human nature. In literature, media, and popular culture, demons are frequently used to explore the complexities of human behavior. From the allure of power to the consequences of unchecked desire, they represent the internal struggles that individuals face when grappling with their own moral compass and the temptations of the world around them. In a more symbolic sense, both angels and demons are used to represent the larger battle between good and evil, not just in a religious context but in everyday life. The angel on one shoulder and devil on the other trope, often seen in cartoons and popular media, encapsulates the human experience of internal moral conflict. This symbolism reflects the universal nature of moral dilemmas. Everyone, regardless of background, faces the challenge of making decisions that align with their personal values, often balancing between what is right and what is tempting. 2. Angels and demons in political and social discourse. The enduring presence of angels and demons in popular culture is not limited to personal or existential exploration, they also serve as metaphors for larger societal and political conflicts. The imagery of angels and demons is frequently used to characterize different political ideologies, leaders, and social movements. This is evident in the way that politicians and activists are often depicted as either angels or demons in the eyes of the public. For instance, a political leader who champions peace, justice, and fairness might be portrayed as an angel, someone who fights for the common good and the welfare of society. On the other hand, a leader whose actions are perceived as corrupt or oppressive might be labeled as a demon, representing evil and destruction in the eyes of their critics. This dichotomy simplifies complex political issues and moral decisions, reducing them to the same kind of good versus evil narrative that has been pervasive in storytelling throughout history. The use of angels and demons as metaphors in political discourse also reflects the polarization of modern politics. In an increasingly divided world, people often view opposing sides as inherently good or evil, depending on their political affiliation. This binary way of thinking, where the angelic side is always right and the demonic side is always wrong, contributes to the growing ideological divide in many societies. The struggle between good and evil becomes not just a religious or philosophical concept but a powerful tool used to frame political and social conflicts in terms of moral superiority. Moreover, the widespread use of angel and demon imagery in political campaigns and social movements can rally supporters and paint enemies in starkly negative light. By presenting oneself as the embodiment of good and casting opponents as evil, leaders and activists can effectively mobilize their followers, appealing to their sense of justice, virtue, and righteousness. The battle between angels and demons, in this case, is more than just a theological or fictional battle. it's a real-world struggle for power and influence. 3. The role of angels and demons in shaping morality and ethics. Perhaps one of the most enduring legacies of angels and demons in modern society is their role in shaping our understanding of morality and ethics. The symbolic representations of these figures continue to guide discussions about what is considered good and evil, right and wrong, in a world that is increasingly complex. Where moral ambiguities abound, angels and demons provide a framework for understanding the consequences of our actions. Angels, as embodiments of goodness and virtue, often serve as a reminder of the ideals we should strive toward: compassion, kindness, honesty, and selflessness. These values are often reinforced in religious teachings, cultural narratives, and social norms. In contrast, demons personify the consequences of vice, greed, lust, pride, and violence. They serve as cautionary figures, warning of the dangers of straying too far from the path of righteousness. The struggle between angels and demons also serves as a powerful metaphor for personal growth and self-improvement. In many narratives, characters face temptations and moral dilemmas that force them to choose between the right and wrong path. This mirrors the experiences of individuals in real life, where the decisions we make, whether in our personal relationships, careers, or even in our internal moral struggles, can have lasting consequences. By portraying the internal battle between good and evil, these figures help individuals understand the complexities of human nature and the importance of making ethical choices. In the realm of business and leadership, this struggle between angels and demons can be seen in the decisions leaders make daily. Ethical dilemmas in business are often framed in terms of balancing profit with integrity, power with responsibility, or competition with cooperation. In a corporate setting, the angelic path may involve choosing ethical practices, fair treatment of employees, and long-term sustainability over short-term gain. The demonic path may tempt leaders to cut corners, exploit workers, or prioritize profit at the expense of ethical considerations. These choices reflect the broader struggle between good and evil, and the consequences of such decisions often reverberate throughout an organization and society at large. 4. The continuing legacy of angels and demons in shaping human identity. The lasting presence of angels and demons in culture, religion, and society underscores their enduring relevance in shaping human identity and behavior. These figures are not just symbols of good and evil, they are powerful agents that influence how we view ourselves and our place in the world. Angels and demons continue to shape our collective psyche by acting as mirrors to our innermost fears, desires, and aspirations. They challenge us to examine the moral choices we make and the consequences of those choices, both for ourselves and for others. As we move forward into an increasingly complex and interconnected world, the narrative of angels and demons will continue to evolve. The lines between good and evil may blur even further, and the struggle between these forces may take on new forms in the face of emerging global challenges. What remains certain is that the timeless battle between angels and demons will continue to serve as a powerful framework for exploring the complexities of human nature, morality, and identity. As we draw the final curtain on this exploration of angels and demons, we are left with not just a deeper understanding of their historical, cultural, and psychological implications, but also an enduring question about the role these figures play in our daily lives. The battle between good and evil, personified by angels and demons, is not merely a relic of ancient myths or religious doctrines, it is an ever-present force in the choices we make, the values we uphold, and the lives we lead. In a world marked by complexity and uncertainty, the dichotomy between angels and demons provides us with a framework to understand our moral struggles. The celestial beings, often regarded as agents of divine protection and purity, are symbols of the virtues we aspire to. They remind us of the importance of kindness, compassion, and integrity in a world that can sometimes feel dominated by selfishness and greed. In contrast, the demons, those dark, seductive forces, serve as warnings, illustrating the consequences of indulgence, pride, and moral decay. They are reminders of what happens when we lose sight of our better selves and surrender to temptation. But here's the real question: do we still recognize the relevance of angels and demons in our modern world? In a society increasingly driven by materialism, instant gratification, and the desire for power, It can be easy to forget that our actions, whether driven by ambition or a desire for control, can have profound consequences on those around us. The stories of angels and demons, though cloaked in the imagery of myth and religion, are still grounded in the realities of human nature. They tap into the timeless struggle between our higher aspirations and our baser instincts. In the corporate world, for instance, the choice between ethical practices and cutting corners is often likened to the eternal struggle between the angelic and the demonic. Business leaders are constantly faced with decisions that can either elevate their companies and improve the lives of their employees, or lead them down a path of corruption and exploitation. The angelic choice might involve promoting fairness, transparency, and responsibility, even when it costs a little more or takes a bit longer to achieve. The demonic choice, however, might prioritize short-term profits at the expense of people, ethical values, or the long-term health of the business. But this isn't just confined to business. The choices we make in our personal lives are also part of this grand struggle. In our relationships, our interactions with family and friends, we are presented with opportunities to either uphold the virtues of compassion, understanding, and patience, or to succumb to anger, envy, and pride. Every day, we encounter moments where we must choose between kindness and cruelty, honesty and deceit, love and indifference. In the realm of leadership, the conflict between angels and demons takes on even greater significance. A true leader, whether in business, politics, or any other sphere, must constantly navigate the moral dilemmas that arise when making decisions that affect the lives of others. The angelic leader will strive to act with integrity, to consider the welfare of those they serve, and to make choices that align with their ethical principles. The demonic leader, however, may be driven by personal ambition, power, and control, placing their own desires above the needs of those they lead. The consequences of these decisions can ripple throughout entire organizations, communities, and even nations, shaping the course of history. The concept of angels and demons also holds a mirror to our inner selves. In every human being, there exists a potential for both light and darkness. We all have the capacity for good, acts of generosity, compassion, and selflessness, as well as the capacity for evil, greed, hatred, and betrayal. The question, then, is not whether we are inherently good or bad, but rather what we choose to nurture within ourselves. Do we choose the path of righteousness, guided by the virtues embodied by angels? Or do we succumb to the temptations and desires that demons represent, allowing our flaws and weaknesses to dominate our actions? In this sense, the struggle between angels and demons is not just an external battle but an internal one. It is a battle that each of us fights every day, often in ways that may seem small or insignificant, but that can ultimately have a profound impact on our lives and the lives of those around us. Every choice, every action, shapes the person we become. And in a world that is constantly changing, we must remain vigilant, constantly striving to choose the higher road, the road that leads us toward greater goodness, greater understanding, and greater harmony with others. One of the most powerful lessons that the story of angels and demons teaches us is that morality is not a black and white issue. It is a complex, nuanced process that requires us to engage in constant self-reflection, to examine our motives, our actions, and the consequences they have on the world around us. In the end, it is not about being perfect, but about striving to be better, to be more like the angels we admire, and less like the demons we fear. But perhaps the most profound lesson of all is that the ultimate power in this battle lies within each of us. We have the ability to choose our path, to decide which forces will shape our lives. In a world that often seems to offer no clear answers, the struggle between angels and demons serves as a powerful reminder that the choices we make define us. We can choose to be guided by the light of our better selves, to uphold the values that make us human, or we can give in to the darkness that seeks to pull us away from our highest potential. So, as we face the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, we must remember that the battle between good and evil is not just a story of ancient mythologies. It is a story that plays out every day, in every decision we make, in every relationship we foster, and in every action we take. We are all part of this ongoing struggle, and in the end, it is the choices we make that will determine whether we are the angels of our own story, or whether we allow the demons within us to take control. In this eternal struggle, may we always remember the lessons of the past and the power of choice that resides within us all. The battle is not over. It is up to each of us to determine how the story unfolds.